Welcome back to my workshop. Now today's little project, I've been asked to make something for one of my friends, and it's one of these. Yeah, this is obviously made out of cardboard. This is my my pattern that I'm going to work from. And now basically it's a pit stand for a Greeves motorcycle. Now Greeves motorcycles were a motorcycle that was manufactured in the 1950s, not far, about 2 miles away from where I live now. They used to make these, which was the Invacar, a little three-wheeler disability vehicle that was made in the 1950s, and then they diverted and started making motorcycles. They had quite success with scrambler bikes. Obviously that's the precursor to motocross bikes. But anyway, my friend has bought one of these and he's asked me to make a paddock stand. So this one is my pattern, made it out of cardboard. Let's have a quick look what I need to make. Okay, so what we have here is my little prototype, which I've made out of cardboard to give me an idea of scale. What we've got is the dimensions about 10 inches by 7 inches, 13 inches by 16 inches, and about a foot high, or 300 mil. And what we're going to have to do is cut out some hand holes here all the way around, and round the bottom there's going to be a scallop out of each side. Okay, then we're going to do some CNC engraving with Greeves motorcycles here and his driver number here, okay, or his race number. Okay, and what we've got to make it out of is this. Okay, so what we've got, okay, is 2 pieces of pine board. These are off of a IKEA wardrobe, and I know that because it's still got the IKEA sticker on it. These are obviously salvaged from someone's garden. They're quite big, but the problem is this one is a different thickness than this one. So I'm going to have to be a bit clever about how I do this. So what I should do now is I'll take apart my template and I should lay it out on here to see if I can get it all out of one board. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to be able to get all the main components out of one board. I'm going to use a slightly thinner board. What I've got to be careful of is, because it's reclaimed board anyway, it's got holes in it where dowels have been. So I've got to make sure I avoid those, otherwise I could end up with holes all over it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is mark out this board with these sizes and then start cutting them out. Okay, so we had our cardboard template. I've now cut the wood to suit. So this is exactly the same as the template. Have ended up with a couple of holes, which I'll have to fill later on, but that's the best I can do. What I've got to decide now is how I'm going to join the corners, what sort of joint I'm going to do. I think what I'll do is a finger joint like this. Okay, done a quick experiment here. And this should fit like this to give me this kind of angle. Let me give you a close-up of that. Okay, so we got this type of finger joint here, which I'll do on the table saw sled. These in theory should just slot together and then give us a nice angle like this. That's the plan. Okay, so to do these finger joints, I've had to make another table saw sled because obviously I've got a new table saw now, and it's basically the same as my old table saw sled. Haven't gone into any detail here because I've done this in previous videos. And basically what I've got here is my table saw sled with a little finger tag here, which helps me make these. So what I will start doing now is feeding my pieces of wood into here and then cutting the fingers to join it together. Right, so that's now all the fingers cut on all of the sides. That's 500 fingers. 500, it's a lot. I've meshed them all together now, so they're basically pivoting like this. Let's have a quick look. Okay, so I've got all my fingers here now. They've all meshed quite nicely. There's been some chip out. That's because I needed the grain to be going this way for the strength because of the weight of the vehicle on the top. But that does mean when you're cutting across it, you're cutting across the grain. So there's been some little bits of chip out. So there might be some creative sanding going on. But this is now basically is ready to be folded. But before I do that, I think I should do the design on all of the sides on the CNC machine. So let's get over to the CNC machine. Okay, just before we go over to the CNC machine, the 3 holes that I've got in this board, I want to fill those before I do any cutting or engraving. So what I've used is my little hole cutting bit, which is a Ferrix one. I've basically cut 3 plugs out of a piece of wood, which are here. I'm going to put those in a hole, glue them in, and then cut them off later. So we're over at the CNC machine now. I've done my basic design. This should give us the word Greeves, and also give me a highlight for where I've got a cutout for the handle and this scallop out of the bottom. Now the front and the back are going to be the same, so I'll do both of those and then I'll do the design for the sides. Right, all I've got to do now is start the CNC machine. The 2 front and the back are done now. The main engraving's done, and as you can see here, I've quickly engraved where I've got a cutout for the handle and also for the scallop on the bottom. What I've done now is, while I'll do that, I'm going to leave the CNC machine running, and I've got the design for the other 2 sides. Let me quickly show you that. Okay, so I've got the other 2 sides. I've got one of them mounted on the CNC machine now. Just mark the center point. Here's my design, and basically all this bit is the race number and also the word Hawkstone at the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to start carving these, and then I can cut out the pieces on the other 2. Right, well, hopefully you can hear me over the CNC machine. Sad face. This has taken about an hour and a half to carve this on the CNC machine. As it was returning to 0 at the end, it did this right up the middle. So now I've got to fix that somehow. Well, I'm only halfway through the project and my CNC spindle is dying. Listen to this. Right, so it's getting a bit late in the day now. My CNC machine has died. It's going to cost me a fortune for a new spindle, so I've had to finish off the engraving all by hand. But because I've been moving it around, we've now ended up with a few casualties. A few of the fingers have broken off. So I've got to get this thing stuck together as soon as possible so it secures it up a little bit. So let's start the glue up now. I've done a quick dry fit and it seems to fit okay. And we put some glue on it and then I can leave it overnight. Right, so that's it. The glue up has resulted in a complete and utter disaster. I'm going to have to completely rethink this. Let me show you what happened. Right, as much as I'd like to walk away from this thing now, I can't afford to let the glue dry if I'm going to try and salvage this. So what I'm going to have to do is knock all the rest of the fingers off and then come up with a solution. So basically, all of these fingers that I spent hours and hours making, they've all got to come off. Right, it's almost a month ago where I was doing this. I just left it. I completely given up, but it's time to do it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plane all these edges off where I had the massive failure of finger joints, and then I'm going to join the corners with hardwood with probably pocket hole joints and glue, and then I'll do some sort of internal structure so it can take the weight. Right, so let's get the planer thicknesser out. Okay, planer thicknessers are out, haven't been used for ages. Got my dust extractor ready to go, got my piece of work. Right, let's get going. Right, found myself a piece of hardwood. I have no idea what it is. I'm presuming it's a bit of sapele. If anyone's got any idea, give us a shout, because I don't know what it is. It's quite light. Right, let's cut this into 18mm battens for the corners. Okay, so for each corner, I'm going to put a batten of wood like this, and I'm going to glue it, and I'm going to put some pocket holes along here on each edge, probably 5 on each edge, so that should be strong enough. So what I'm going to use for that is my trusty old pocket hole jig. I do have another one, but this is just easy to use. Okay, and a special drill. All right, so I've got loads of those to do. Let's get pocket holing. So now each panel has got a multitude of pocket holes. What I need to do now is put glue on here, put my batten on here and screw it together. Okay, to do this I'm going to do it on a flat surface, which I have here. Okay, nice flat surface, so when that's screwed together this face will be flush. Okay, right, let's get some glue going. Now I've got my side battens stuck in place and screwed in. These are flush on this side, slightly proud on this side, but I will be sanding these down. Now I have to attach the ends. So I've done this on both of the longer pieces. but on the shorter pieces I now have to fit them together like this. But the issue I've got is I've done my pocket holes all at the same place. Okay, so now it looks like I've got a potential issue where the screws may clash. I won't know until I put my first screw in. If the first one goes in all right, then we're good to go. But the same principle again. Okay, put some glue on it and put some screws in it. Okay, it's time to put the last side on. Now there's some strange angles going on here. As I'm trying to put this last panel on, there's a very slight difference in angle. And it's obviously trigonometry, which I'm not very good at. So what I'm going to do is just basically trim this off to give me the necessary angle so I can screw it together without it all being under tension. Right, there was more angles involved there than I expected, but there's been some creative joinery going on. Right, I've got to now trim off the tops of the battens and the bottoms of the battens and flush off the top and the bottom, and then start doing some structural work inside. Right, as if that last bit wasn't complicated enough, now I've got to flatten the top and the bottom, so when it sits square. Problem is, you've got this angle to contend with, and this angle, and of course the angle of the wood at the top. So what I've done is, this angle is 75 degrees. What I've done is I've set my mitre gauge, this one, okay, to 15 degrees. And I've also set this to 75 degrees. Okay, so in theory, I can now cut this, and when it cuts the top, it'll all end up flat. That's the plan. Let's see what happens. Right, for the internal structure, what I've done is I've jumped ahead a little bit here. This obviously is prone to breaking at the moment, so what we need to do is create a box section inside. So what I've done is I've measured inside here, and I've cut a piece of wood, or it's MDF, but I've cut it at the 15-degree angle all the way around. Okay, and then that will sit inside here like this. Okay, and on the top end, let's pull that out a minute. On the top end I've made a smaller version of the same, which goes inside like this. Okay, that fits nice and snugly. Okay, so with this in and this in, you end up with a box section in here. Okay, then on top of here I'm going to have another section which will be bolted through the top to hold the top together. Okay, that's the plan. Let's see if I can get it working. Right, okay, so that's all gluing up now. The top, which is now on the bottom, is set in position. The bottom, I've got it fixed in. I've got clamps either side to hold the walls in, two besties to hold the ends in, and then all of these little ones, I've got them as extenders, so they're pushing the platform down. Okay, I'm going to leave this overnight. I'm going to go and have some tea, and then tomorrow, maybe I'll start sanding. Right, so I've jumped ahead a little bit here now. What I've made here is 4 little battens and some corner pieces. Now, the corner pieces are literally just the hardwood again. They're going to sit on the corners here, on each corner, as feet. And then I will be profiling those. So these will be stuck and brad nailed and then profiled to fit the shape. And the battens, each of the battens is a diamondy shape. Okay, that's so it sits in here like this. Okay, but each end as well is angled, so they all fit in all nice and tidy, just to give it an extra bit of strength. Right, let me start sticking those in and then I can do some more sanding. Okay, so the next thing I've got to do before I carry on with the sanding, the number here, this race number, let me show you there. I want the background to be white. So the best way to do it, I think, for this particular thing is to put a little bit of resin in it. So I've leveled this up because obviously it's at slopey angles. I've now leveled this up this way and this way, okay, with this dodgy array of wood here. Okay, and what we're going to do is mix up a little bit of white resin and just float it in there. Thing is though, the little bit of resin I've got in this thing is crystallized. Okay, so I'm going to try and rescue that. And the way I'm going to rescue it is I've got a little tub here full of hot water. And I'm just going to put this in here, leave it for 10 minutes and see if I can rescue it. Right, so I've managed to salvage this. This is now liquid again. Okay, now I've got about 141 grams in there. I don't need a lot. So what I'm going to do is mix up half of this. Change of plan though, I haven't got any white, so I'm going to have to use black. So I'll have a black background with white numbers. Should look all right. Okay, so I'm going to mix up half of this. I can only do one side at a time and then have to let that set and then turn it over. Otherwise it'll all fall out. Right, let me get mixing. Right, so that's the first bit of resin in. Let's leave that overnight. Okay, so given the Greeves one coat of green, I'll probably have to give that another coat. Now, where it says Great Britain and the oval around the outside, I'm just going to use an acrylic paint marker in black. Yeah, I'll get on with that. It's like watching paint dry. So at the minute, this looks like a bit of a dog's dinner, but as soon as I sand that off, it should give me some nice sharp edges. Right, can't do anything more on this side. Can't do anything on the other side until this is dry, then I can turn it around. So what I'll do is I'll concentrate on the top. Now the top, I want to cover this in aluminium. So first thing I've got to do is go and get some aluminium. Bloody hell, I think I've just been robbed. Just got a bit of aluminium checker plate and a little bit of channel. Cost me 25 quid. Right, so I'm back home now after being robbed blind at the hardware shop. Now the idea is this is going to be the top. What I want to do is cover it in this aluminium checker plate. So I've got to cut that to the right size. Then I'm going to edge it with this aluminium trim. Okay, this fits on there nicely. Problem is there's not enough room for this. So I'm going to have to recess the back of this to give me an extra 1.7 millimeters. I mustn't muck it up because this is bloody expensive. Okay, so it's all my bits of aluminium cut. Right, my top here, I've recessed it all the way around. Had a bit of a disaster here. The stop on my mitre went too far and I ended up cutting a big hole. Never mind, that should be okay. So I've got a recess here. That's to allow this to sit inside. What I've got on here then is this slots in here like this. It should marry up somehow like this. Okay, and that's what I've got. And this is all I've got left of that very expensive piece of aluminium. Right, so now I've got to fix this somehow to the top, and then there's going to be 4 bolts here that actually bolt it down to the stand. Okay, so what I've done now is I've put some tape around it to hold this all in place when I drill the holes. What I've done is I've marked out the positions where I want to put the screws. What I should do is first of all hit it with an automatic centre punch on each point, then drill it with a drill that's here somewhere, a high-speed steel drill, then I'll countersink it, then I'll put in a screw. That's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so that's the top all done, looking all very nice and shiny. I probably will give it a bit of a polish or something. All the corners are okay. Might give those a little bit of a sand or something. Right, that's enough for the top for now. Let's wait for the resin to dry and then carry on. Okay, so I've now got the top drilled. I'm using these type screws, and I've also put some inserts in the top, so this can be removed if necessary. Right, for the feet, what I want to do now is put some rubber on them. What I've got here is a bit of foam. It's one of these exercise mats. I'm just going to cut some corners of this and literally stick them on the bottom of the feet. Okay, so I've just touched in the race number here. Yeah, I think I've nailed that. That's pretty good for a vintage motorcycle number. Right, let's put some of this on. Danish oil. Right, that's the first coat of Danish oil on it now. It's starting to look good. I've now got to leave that for 6 hours, so I'm going to leave that overnight. I'm going to get cleaned up and go and watch Antiques Roadshow. Right, so that is it. Thank you for staying till the end of the video. This is all now done. Aluminium top is on. All the engraving's done. It's had 2 coats of Danish oil. It might need another one once it's seen a bit of weather. It will be being used outside. It's a tool, it's not a piece of furniture. The sides have come out quite well. This is his race number. I quite like that actually. It's turned out better than I thought. Handles and Greeves motorcycles written on the side. Okay, and also Hawkstone written here. Right, I think that'll do. I'll get this delivered to him now and see if he can get his bike on it. Hopefully it'll take the weight. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. The places where I want to put screws, and what I should do is hit them with a countersink. Countersink? It's not even a countersink bit. Right, so I mentioned to say for them. Is this the right way around now? Okay, so I've done the grey.